Hello everyone, welcome to another GDevelop tutorial, and today we are going to talk about a problem I faced a few days ago. More specifically, this is all about loading and saving a player status. You might use it to save, I don't know, player's position or the weapon you collected, and when you restart the game you actually load those things again. So I'm gonna show you how it works in my game. So this is my game. This is where you start in the level. So this is exactly the spawn point of the player. And I have my lives in the left corner. I have 3 lives, and if I die now, let me just find an enemy. Yeah. Okay. So if I die, I died, right? So I respawned in this point, right? So I always start from here. But let's see what happens, if I find a checkpoint, because the level is quite big now, and I don't want the players to restart the game always from the same point. That might be a bit annoying. So I actually have a boss in this level, and I really wanted to save the position of the player and life status somewhere and load it if you actually reach a checkpoint, right? So let me go really quickly. I will fast forward this part. So here you go. You see that thing on the right, sparkling thing. That's the checkpoint. I still didn't touch it, but hopefully this will actually save my position and the amount of lives I have, right? So I'll just go there and I activated it. So now if I go to, well, let's go to find the boss, okay? And he will kill me. I should start from that point, not from the beginning anymore. Alright, so I started from that position, and I actually don't have 1 life, because that's what I had when I came here, okay? So I created really quickly a project here, right? So what I have here is really simple example game. So what can we do here, right? So we can go, we can jump. It has a really basic player behavior on this square, and I have some platforms there. Then in here I have the status, because when I click things I want you to see what's actually going on. So I have 3 buttons here. This is to save the status of the player. This is to reload the level, and once it will reload it, it will actually load whatever we saved before. And this clears completely all the saved data, and we basically reset all the level, okay? So what I'm going to do now, so I have also added this thing, so I can change the color of the player. So whenever I press C, I just choose one of these 3 colors, okay? So let's say I choose pink, okay? And on this platform. Okay, now if I press save, player saved, right? And I go to completely another position, right? So I just changed my color to purple again, and I went to this platform. And when I reload the level, it will load the previous status that I saved, right? Okay, that works. So we have our pink color again, and we are in the position which we saved, okay? Now if I press this button, it will clear that all, right? Player cleared, and I restart the level, and I start from the initial position again, okay? So this all works, and now I'll show you more in detail how to do that. So let me create another scene, okay? New scene, rename, I'll call it player status example, okay? Cool, let's open it. I have nothing here. I'll just set the background color to black so that you can see better things. I need to create a few objects here, so obviously I need to create player sprite. I'll call it player. Add animation, okay? I'll just use, I don't know, 16 by 16 pixels dimension. I just color my player with white. Save. I just put all the points in the middle. 8, 8, 8. Okay. Apply. So now we have our player. Cool. And I double click it and I add a platformer character behavior. So now we can move our character. Apply. I will not change anything here. Now I'll just add a few platforms. So I'll choose tiled sprite, create. Again, I just choose 16 by 16. Oops. And I create platform with something like, I don't know, something gray. Okay. Cool. This is cool. Let me use my grid. I always use grids. Set up grid. 1, 6, 1, 6. Apply and show the grid. Okay. Cool. So now we can place character. Let me zoom in a little bit. And I can place some platforms. All right. I actually need to add a behavior to the platform. So we go to behaviors, add a behavior, and we call it a platform, and type jump through platforms. We can jump through it, but we can step on it. Okay. Apply. I forgot to rename this object. It's a good practice to rename your objects always. So I'll call it platform. Okay. Apply. So now if we run the game, we can actually walk on these platforms. Cool. It works. So let's go to our events. I want to do quick things first. So first of all, at the beginning of the level, I actually want to resize the window so we can see things better. So I just type at the beginning of the scene. Okay. Window. Change the size of the window, and I choose something like 1200 for 800, something like that. Okay. And I want to center the screen, center the game window. Okay. Cool. Now we can see things better. Another thing I want to do is actually to camera to follow the player. So I'll add another condition. I don't put anything here. So always camera, where is it? Center the camera on an object, player. Okay. So now it will follow our player. Okay, cool. That works. Okay. Let's add some more objects here, which we need. So first of all, I want to add player status text. So I'll just choose white 8, and I just call it status text. Okay. Apply, and I put it in the scene somewhere here, so it will be in the UI. I actually need to create another layer for the UI. So when we move, we actually see the UI all the time. So I just go here, open layer editor, add a layer, and I call it UI, user interface. Okay. And I put this text as UI and not the base layer. So they'll be gonna be on different layers. So if I run the game, we should see it there all the time. Okay, we have our text there. Cool. Another thing we will need is are those 3 buttons to do things. Okay, so I just add another sprite and I call it button save. Okay, add animation. I will add a really ugly UI button, resize. That's cool. Let's put it in. I create another button which I will need to use to restart the level. So button restart. Okay. And we need the last button to actually clear all the status which we saved. Okay, so then clear. That's alright. Let me just put it here. Let me group them a little bit because there's too much distance between them. And obviously these three buttons, we should send them to the layer UI. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Okay, cool. We have our buttons, we have our status, we have our player, but nothing works here except our player jumping through the platforms. So first thing, we're gonna try to change the color of the player and save that state. Okay, so we will start with that, and later we will try to save the position, which is a little bit more complicated than that. Okay, so we go to our events, and I add another empty event, and on basically what I want to create, like every time I press C on my keyboard, it will change a color of my player. Okay, so key pressed, C. And we also need to add trigger once, because this will make sure that if we keep holding the CK, it will not change continuously the color. It will just change it once when we click on it. Okay, so this is important to add. And what we're gonna do here is actually start to create some variables. Okay, so we will create a scene variable. So variable, value of a scene variable, and here we need to call it. So how do we call this variable? I'll call it player color. Okay, and we add value 1. So every time we press C, it will add 1 to the variable. So if I press it, player color will be will go from 0 to 1, from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and so on, like every time we press the CK. Okay, so that's cool. And now we need to actually try to give some instructions, like, so what happens if the variable of player color is 1, is 2, is 3, is 0. You know, we need to make sure that the app knows what we're asking for. So I just add another event, and I add this. So we still need to call the variable. So if the variable of a scene, we set player color equals to 0, then we change the color of our player. Okay, so color, global color of a sprite, okay, so this one, player, and we choose whatever color we like. I choose like purple. Okay, so now if this variable is 0, our player will become purple. So we can create many of those. I just create 2 more. Okay, so if it's 1, then the color will become I don't know, yellow, something like that. Cool. And if the variable is 2, I change the color to something like blue. Okay, nice. Okay, I have 3 colors which change between them. You know, if I keep pressing C, it will increase the variable to like 3, 4, 5. I don't want to create really for each of those a color. I just make sure that it will circle through these 3 variables, right? So to do that, I just need to add this. So we will just limit how many times you can change the color. So if let me just copy this. Okay, so copy and paste. If the value is 3, we change it back to 0. Okay, so add action variable of a scene variable player color equals to 0. Okay, so this, every time we go to variable 3, it will reset it back to 0, so then we can start all over again. Okay, so let me save it quickly and run. Cool, so now our sprite is not white anymore, it's kind of purple pink, right? So I press C, it becomes yellow, I press once again, it becomes blue, and it starts all over again. So now our sprite changes color. That's cool. And now I'm gonna show you how to actually save the status of this color. So whenever we restart the level, it will keep the color of the sprite which we saved. Okay, so let me save the project first. Cool. And now we need to create a action when we click on this button. Okay, so let me add another event. And as we'll be clicking with the mouse, we need to make sure it happens when we use the mouse. So in here I'll search mouse when we are over, when the cursor is over that object, so button save. Okay, and we click, so mouse button pressed, this one, left primary. Cool. And also we need to add trigger once, because otherwise it will just do this action continuously, and we want it to do it once. So if that happens, we want to capture this variable, so we want to capture this current state. So we will be in one of the states anyway at this point, right? And we want to save that for later. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is actually type write, and there is this thing called storage, so it will store all the information we need, and we choose write a value. So storage name, it's, you know, it's all about player, so I'll just call it player. Group, this is about color, so let's choose color. And expression, so what do we want to save? We want to save a variable, right? So we need to specify it here, so we write variable. And which variable we want to save? Player color, because this is the one we named here, right? So player color. So by the way, I write it down like this here, but you can actually do a bunch of things in the, you know, expression editor, so you could have done it this way as well. So let me show you. Variable, a value of scene variable, and we write here player color. So this will generate this thing for us, right? So you see it's the same, exactly the same as I write it here. So let me delete one of them. Okay, so now when we press this button, it will save the status of one of these. Okay, we also want to change the text of our label here, just to show that something happened. So I'll just do this really quickly. Text, modify the text. Okay, status text and equals, so what we want to write here, something like status saved. Okay, cool. We also want to set something at the beginning, right? So whenever we'll be loading something, we just want to change the text as well. Text, which, oh sorry, that's the wrong one. This one, okay. Equals to something like status loaded. Okay, oops. Cool. So if we run the game, status loaded, okay, status saved, okay, but we cannot do much now. We actually need to be able to restart the level, and also it won't load anything because we didn't say at the beginning of the scene to load this status, right? So one thing at a time. So now let's add the event and restart the level first. Okay, so mouse. So if our cursor is on top of restart, button restart, and we click it, left, okay, and trigger once again, trigger once, we restart the level completely. Okay, so pause and start a new scene, and we choose our current scene. So this will restart this current level. And you know, if we run it right now, we can go around, we can change our color, we can save the state, and we restart. It goes back to whatever we had before, so default state. So it did save something, but it didn't load it. Okay, so we actually need to load here in the beginning. Okay, so how we do that? So first we used write. Okay, so this write to the storage. Now we just need to read from the storage. So read a value. So storage name was player. The group was color. And which variable we want to load is player color. Okay. Player color. Okay, so now at the beginning of the scene, this variable will be loaded. Exactly the one we saved at this point, so it will be loaded here, and the level will do whatever we asked to do, right? So if the variable is 0, it will choose this color. If the variable is 1, it will choose this color. So now we actually will be able to load it. Okay, so let's play. Okay, so now you see already we saved it at some point. So let me change the color to this one. I save it. Okay, now let me change it again to yellow, and if I restart the level, it's purple again, so it's working properly. So whenever we press this button, it will save the color of the player, and whenever we restart the level, it will load that color we saved before. Okay, so this is working. So let's try again. So this is now blue. I save it. I change it to purple. I just go somewhere. I restart the level. I start from the same position of before, but I actually loaded the correct color. So that's cool. So that's working, and I think you already might understand well how this works. But I wanted to show you something more than this. Okay, so another thing I want to do is actually save the position of the player, right? So whenever I hit that button of saving the status, we will not only save the color of it, the current color of the player, but we actually will save the position as well. So every time then we will restart the game, we will start from that position. And this is really useful for things like, you know, checkpoints, or like saving the status of the level, or maybe you collected a weapon and you know, when you die, you can actually have it again, right? So there are many things you can use this for. So, but let's see how to do it with the position of the sprite, because this is a little bit different from the color. Okay. So how do we store this information? So I go to add action, and once again we need to write this value. Write a value, storage player, group, let's say position X. Okay. And expression, now we need to save the current position of the player, right? So it's player position X. Okay. Now let's copy this and paste, because we need to do the same for the Y position. So position Y here, so that's the group, and which position is the Y axis, right? So vertical axis. So, okay, at this point we stored this information. So we stored the color, we store, you know, position X of the player and position Y. And then if we restart the level, we need somehow to load these things, right? So first thing, obviously, we need to read these values once again. So we just add an action and say read a value from storage player, group position X, and we stored this information which we saved in a scene variable. So let's call it player x. Okay, so at this point we'll read this value and we set it as a scene variable. Okay, cool. Let's copy this once again and do that for the y-axis. Okay, so player position y, this is the group, and we store this information we get here to another variable which is player y. Okay, so now we know these values. The last time we saved, this will load at the beginning of the level next time, and we actually need to physically change the position of the object to these values. So I add another action, and I choose position of an object. Okay, this is the object we want to change. And what is the value of this, right? So we stored our information in a variable position x. So let's call it here variable position player x, I think it was. Okay, player x. Cool. So for the y we do the same thing here. Okay, y position is player y. Okay, so what we did here, just to quickly remind you what we did, right? So when we press the button save, we write the player's position x and player position y to the storage, right? At the beginning of the scene, we load this information and we set it as a variable of the scene. So the scene knows the previous position of the player, and after the scene knows all of that, we change the position of the player to the position which we saved here. Okay, so let's run, and hopefully after all this talking this actually works. Okay, so let's go here, let's change the color to this pink, save. Okay, we save the status, we go in some other place, change the color to yellow, and if I press this, now we should appear there on top with the pink color. Oh, that works. Okay, let's try it again. Let's change it to yellow. Let's go, I don't know, let's go here. Okay, save the status. Now change the color again to blue and go to a completely other place and restart the level, and hopefully will appear there as a yellow color. Cool, this all works. I want to quickly just fix something. You know, when we appear in this position, we appear exactly there, and sometimes it might cause problems, like you could fall from the platform because there's like you know, 1 pixel difference and things like that. So we want to make sure that we appear at the same position but a little bit above, right? So what I will add here is just the y, right? So variable player y minus a few pixels, right? So just minus maybe 5 pixels. Okay, cool. So we'll appear exactly in that position, but like 5 pixels above the ground. Okay, so let me try that and see if that works. Okay, so we just save here, go to another place, restart. Okay, you see we appear there and a little bit above the ground, so we always make sure that we fall on the platform. Okay, so that works, and that's fine. We always will start from this position, you know, with this color. Everything we saved is stored and loaded at the beginning. So if we want to erase all the data and start from the default state of it, we can do that easily. You know, we just add another thing here, so another event. This is the last button we need to click. So mouse cursor is on top of button clear. Cool, and when we click, left button, okay, trigger once. So when we click that, we want to do 2 things. Change the text. Obviously, we want to say what does that do, and clear all the data we have saved. Okay, so first of all, let's clear the data, right? So clear a storage. So you remember the storage name player, where we saved the color, when we saved you know, position, everything there. So let's just call it here, player. It will erase all the saved information about the color, position, and so on. And let's change the text, okay? Let's change the text, where it is. Text object, status text equals to status cleared. Cool. Okay, now let's test this out and see if that works. So you remember we saved here our position and color yellow. Okay, so if I press this, status cleared, and restart the level, we start from the default position we had at the beginning. Okay, so let me quickly test if that's all actually working, right? So we go here, change our color, we save, change color again, just go somewhere else, and reload. So this was working. So every time I will start from here with that color. And now if I clear all the stored data and I restart again, I start from default. So I hope this was helpful. You know, these are basic things you can save and load in your game, like, you know, player status, position, and things like that. You can create stuff like, you know, you can save the game first of all. You can save your progress. You can load your progress. You can create checkpoints with this. So yeah, I think this will help in your game development, and if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please subscribe and check my other videos. I have plenty of them. And yes, if you want to suggest another video about something, please let me know. I will definitely make sure I create a video about things you need to see. And please follow me on Twitter, join my Discord channel. And thanks for watching, and see you next time.